I'm going to call the meeting to order. This pre-agenda meeting, I will take a roll call at this time. Mayor Pro Tem, are you here?
Here.
Mayor, Councilman Reinbach, you here?
Yes, I am.
Councilmember Spears, are you here?
I'm here.
Councilmember Waddell, are you here?
Here.
Councilmember Andrews, are you here?
Here.
Councilmember Joyner, are you here?
Here.
And the chair is here. We have several presentations tomorrow night. C1 is approval of the special council meeting minutes. C2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to retire police K-9 officer Dex and to transfer the ownership of K-9 officer Dex to police sergeant Kendall Murphy. C3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a 3-year contract with Sun State Security, LLC in the amount of $218,946 annually for the security services at the Skyline Center. C4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with Otis Elevator Company in the amount of $240,000 for elevator maintenance and repair services at 929 North Front Street, 155 North Brunswick Street, and 155 North 3rd Street. C5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year agreement with Riceville Beach Landscaping in the annual amount of $88,795 for the landscaping services at 929 North Front Street, 155 North Brunswick Street, and 115 North 3rd Street, and North Front Street Medium. C6 is a resolution to authorize the city manager to execute a 1-year contract extension with CSI International Incorporated, formerly Executive Building Maintenance, for janitorial services at the Skyline Center in the amount of $376,731. C7 is a resolution authorizing a new lease on the 7th floor of Skyline Center to Beacon Technologies Incorporated. C8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a uniform rental services agreement with UniFirst Corporation. C9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year contract with Gauls Parent Holdings, LLC for the purchase of WPD's Class A uniforms. C10 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year contract with Gauls Parent Holdings, LLC for the purchase of WPD's tactical uniforms. C11 is a resolution awarding on-call contracts for stormwater engineering services. C12 is a resolution to adjust accounts receivable for uncollectible accounts. C13 is a resolution appointing the city tax collector. And C14 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year grant agreement with YWCA of the Lower Cape Fear Incorporated in the annual amount of $60,000 to enhance economic development activity within the city of Wilmington. C15 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a 3-year grant agreement with the Arts Council of Wilmington and New Hanover County in the annual amount of $30,000 to enhance economic development activity within the city of Wilmington. And then C16 is a resolution of City Council's intent to close a portion of Aubrey Alley, an unimproved alley between Parsley Streets and Davis Street in the city of Wilmington, North Carolina. And then C17 is a resolution rejecting all bids for the Front Street Bridge Rehabilitation Project. Public information, and we have public hearings. PH1 is for 2026 Annual Action Plan for CDBG and Home Funds. And this is a public hearing only. And then PH2 is an ordinance granting a special use permit for a residential courtyard development located at 5651 Greenville Loop Road. And this was continued from our March 4th, 2025 meeting. Ordinances. 01 is an ordinance making appropriation to the general fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. This is again being heard on the second reading. 02 is an ordinance making appropriations to the grant projects, financial plans, enterprise funds, debit service funds, special tax district, and convention center fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. This again is on the second reading. 03 is an ordinance making appropriation to the capital projects funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. Again, second reading. 04 is an ordinance amending various chapters of the City of Wilmington fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. Again, second reading. And 05 is an ordinance making a supplemental appropriation of $1,591,427 in surplus revenues to the general fund. 06,
Mayor?
yes, sir.
Just with regards to the, sorry I'm behind, but the special use, Greenville Loop special use. I know we had a lot of discussion up here and then kicked some stuff back to Planning Commission with regards to special use. Would it not be appropriate to request a continuance? Are we allowed to do that for a special use? Is there anything keeping us from doing that?
So it's up to the applicant, because when the application was made, they had the option to proceed with a special use permit, and so it's their choice if they want to proceed with one, no matter what we do in the future or not.
The city council can't recommend a continuance?
I mean, you could ask the applicant if they would continue, but it's really up to them if they want to go forward.
But it's like, so like a conditional use, we could just motion to continue to a date certain or whatever. We don't have that option under the special use permit.
No, it's up to the applicant whether they want to go forward.
Okay, all right. I think it'd be appropriate, but I wanted to know whether or not we would be able to do that, so thank you.
Okay. 06 is an ordinance authorizing additional spending authority related to opioid settlement funds in the amount of $40,000 to be provided to New Hanover County.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a question about this. I was reading about the county's budget and observed that it was at least mentioned that they were touching opioid settlement funds in some way. I don't know what exactly was being done with it. It was a parentheses in the news article that I was reading. But I'm curious if we know what's going on with that and if we can get information on that before we vote on essentially putting more money in that bucket, because my understanding is that they receive funds, we receive funds, but they essentially hold and distribute the funds even though we have a joint task force on it.
At this time, I do not know what you're referring to, but I'll reach out to the county. I believe they have a meeting this morning at 9 o'clock, but I'll reach out to them and see if I can get a hold of them after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
07 is an ordinance to amend various funds to comply with the accounting requirements of GASB Statement Number 87 regarding leases and Number 96 regarding subscription-based information technology agreements. Resolutions are: one is a resolution authorizing filling of condemnation actions for acquisition of conservation easements, permanent drainage easements, and temporary construction easements for Stage 2 of the Wisteria Clearbrook Drainage Improvement Project. And then R2 is a resolution authorizing an upset bid process to lease real property at 929 North Front Street. And then R3 is a resolution to authorize upset bid process for 2451 South College Road. And then reports, RP1's reports of council's appointments committee for boards, commissions, and committees.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to add to the Appointments Committee report. We had a resignation on the DPAC, Downtown Parking Advisory Committee, and it is a slot that is authorized for the residents of Old Wilmington. And we did get an application just a bit too late for the meeting from the president of the residents of Old Wilmington going ahead and appointing herself to that slot so that person can go ahead and roll off. And I just wanted to add that to tomorrow's report if there's no objections.
Any objections? None. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Moten concludes this portion.
Morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. We have two items to present to you today. The first one will be the Human Services Competitive Agency Grant recommended program changes, and then that will be followed by the Riverwalk Maintenance Program. First presentation is by Housing and Neighborhood Services Director Rachel Schuler.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This is a follow-up from our May presentation that we made with some proposed changes, and now we're bringing forward the recommendations. So the recommended purpose statement is for the Human Services Grant process to provide financial support to nonprofit agencies that will provide direct services to residents, and this will assist the City of Wilmington carrying out its adopted strategic plan. As a reminder, the strategic plan priorities have 5 focus areas, and so these would be what is the basis for this grant process. The grant structure is recommended to be in two buckets. One is the impact fund with a 2 to 4 year commitment of up to $300,000 annually for 1 or 2 programs or projects that would help make that significant progress. We would encourage collaborative applications, but they are not required, and they may include capital projects. This is where, when the discussion of the YMCA capital fund came in, this is where it may fall into that bucket. The human services bucket would remain similar to past processes. There'd be a balance of around $450,000 that could be allocated to organizations, once again on a 2-year commitment at an annual amount of $20,000 or $25,000. In the past, we have ranged anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 with our grants. It's very inconsistent with what we're able to do based off of the number of applications. So this would help agencies really understand what they're applying for and what they may be awarded. It would, of course, impact the number of grants that could be awarded. This past year, we had about 38, I think, contracts based off of the different programs, because we fund programs, not necessarily just organizations. So this would limit the number, but would have a greater impact on a lot of those organizations. Some examples. This is a new concept, so we want to provide some examples of ways that the impact fund could be used. Youth development programs, such as summer employment programs, giving them the opportunity to grow. Preservation of affordable housing through repairs and rehabilitation. Potentially capital projects to expand the organizational capacity to deliver the programs and services through our partnerships. Allowing heirs to invest in aging properties with legal protections. Potentially day shelters for persons experiencing homelessness, to connect to services and support, and early education or child care programs. These are just recommendations and examples of ways that this impact fund could be used. There are recommended target populations for both the Impact and Human Services Fund. Looking at older adults, we define that as age 55 and above. Youth or young adults under 24. Individuals facing housing insecurity, persons with medical disabilities, and survivors of domestic or child abuse. All populations must be within the city limits and have the income at or below 80% of the area median income. Just for reference, we are recommending the review process to be split into the different buckets. So for the impact fund, that's where we would look to have a council ad hoc committee, since this is such a large bucket of funds for specific organizations to help carry out your strategic plan. This seems like it would be the most appropriate way to have that influence on the applications by reviewing them and being a part of the funding recommendations. We would also invite staff from finance, housing, neighborhood services, and budget to help review the applications with council, provide some feedback and some past experience, past performance of the organizations that have been funded. There would be interviews with the review panel that's similar to what we do now, and then applications that would be scored on the criteria and community impact. For the human services, this would be done with the various city departments, including finance, housing, neighborhood services, and budget staff. Again, meeting with the projects to discuss interviews and scored according to our criteria, which is listed here. We have in the past, staff has given extra points for agency collaboration, again, making sure that these projects and programs are moving the needle as best as possible by working together. Looking at the experience capacity, the impact on citizens, how many citizens are going to be served directly by this program and organization, the budget and financial management, past performance, their performance management and work plan, so how many people, how are they measuring success? Those are very important. And then for negative points of past performance, if they did not perform well or if it's incomplete or inaccurate. If council decides to move forward with these recommended changes, we have the proposed timeline here. Today is in June, where we're presenting these priorities and criteria. Staff would spend July updating the grant application and promoting workshops that would take place in August. We would hold both virtual and in-person meetings. Throughout September and October, the applications would be open and office hours would be available for technical assistance. I know that was a question that came up of how some of these organizations may need support through the process. And while it is a competitive process, offering technical assistance through the application process is invited during this time period. That would leave November and December for staff and the ad hoc committee to review the applications. If council wishes to see the Human Services grant in a deeper dive during that time, there's that opportunity as well. There's the January council work session where staff would provide some additional recommendations for funding with the final recommendations in March. Happy to answer any questions or receive any feedback, and if council decides to move forward with these recommendations, staff will work towards updating the grant application.
Questions? Ms. Andrews?
If you go back to the slide where you had the two, forward, right there. Would the council ad hoc committee be looking at both of these buckets?
It's proposed right now just for the impact fund as a part of the application process. Of course, all of the grants would be reviewed by you, would be able to be reviewed by you at any time. We can present that at a January work session where we go into a deeper dive on some of the applications, unlike in the past where it's just been a very broad overview. So maybe it may be more appropriate for staff to bring forward the recommendations and have a meeting with that ad hoc committee to discuss the progress at that time.
Yeah, I just think the council ad hoc committee should probably be looking at both before they come to the council as a whole.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, we'll interpret that to be this general consensus.
I did have a question. I couldn't find it. I apologize. When you mentioned the slide where you said recommended impact funds examples, allowing heirs to invest in aging properties with legal protection. Can you elaborate on that for me a little bit?
Yes, there are some communities that partner with legal aid or other legal assistance to help folks who live in neighborhoods in their homes that maybe have unclear titles, heir properties where there may be, as you see when we bring forward code enforcement cases, multiple owners, and so really helping to provide that support to clear the title with the heirs.
Okay. And we haven't done that before, though, or?
We have not. There have been some community programs. I know the Cape Fear Housing Coalition has done some wills clinics and has worked through that, but the city has not done that before.
Okay. That's a good idea. I mean, I just wanted to get some clarity. Thank you.
I think it's an excellent idea, because that's probably 90% of it, is folks that have multiple heirs that come in here, we want to save the properties, and there's 20, 30 people that are part of the ownership, and they don't have the legal means to do it or the financial wherewithal to do it. So I know that we contribute something through our budget to legal aid, and we should take advantage of that and ask for more help from them. In fact, they asked for some additional funding this year, which I know that we limited it to, but I think this would be a good step forward. I agree with that. It's been one of the biggest problems we've had for many, many years is heir property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Moten.
Make sure we know what the next steps are. Is there a general consensus that we should proceed with the adjustments made, such as the ad hoc committee, which will be created by the mayor? They would be involved in both buckets, the human services as well as the impact funding.
Sure.
If that's amenable, then we'll go proceed with that direction and bring an update soon thereafter.
Mr. Waddell.
Has there been any discussion internally, like it appears that has happened over at New Hanover County, about whether to direct these kind of initiatives to the $1 billion New Hanover County endowment and focus our resources, the taxpayers' resources, onto core services, and transportation, public safety, et cetera? Has there been any internal discussion with staff, or would you just wait for some sort of direction from council?
Well, I think we've explored that topic, and part of that's somewhat how we recognize there was an opportunity to really create a second category of impact funding, recognizing now that historically we've not had a community chest, a community foundation, if you will. But now that we do, we think there's an opportunity for the city to leverage this money. However, I've not been involved in a conversation about completely eliminating the process and diverting or directing individuals to apply to the community endowment thus far. So that could be in the development of the FY26 budget. Council may want to provide some guidance to the city manager relative to your appetite to continue the program. This particular item that we're presenting today is for the FY26-27 budget.
But that type of policy guidance would be at like our first work session, budget work session, as we begin to develop that budget.
Yes,
This effectively gets you guys to go ahead with business as usual to create something until you get such guidance.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I want to be careful that we keep mentioning the county and mirroring what the county is doing. And I want to be careful that we don't mirror what's taking place with our counterparts over in the county, because it's a lot of stuff that's going on that I don't necessarily agree with, and I don't think the city of Wilmington should follow that pattern. And also, the New Hanover County endowments money is not city of Wilmington's money. We don't even have the same relationship with the endowment as the New Hanover County commissioners have, or the New Hanover County government has. So I don't think we should be banking on what the endowment will do as it relates to, you know, how we conduct business, how we handle grants and nonprofits. It's just a different type of relationship. And I think we should set our own precedents as being the city of Wilmington. So I just want to put that out there, because I keep hearing that. I've been hearing that repeatedly through this budget process, the county and the endowment, and I just don't think the relationship is the same. And I want to make sure that, well, I want to put out there that staff should just focus on how we take care of our citizens, how we take care of business as the city of Wilmington, because it's not the same thing. It's not the same relationship. And I don't think we need to follow the pattern of the New Hanover County Commission.
Point taken. Mr. Ravenbart?
The point that what's missing, what we continue to miss, and I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but we live in the New Hanover County. We're a municipality in New Hanover County. They used to have a slogan that they were beneath it all, and in reality, they are. Wrightsville Beach, Curie Beach, Carolina Beach, City of Wilmington, we're municipalities within the county, and they have very specific responsibilities being an extension of our state government. We're not. We're just granted a charter to be a municipality, and it could end tomorrow. But the lines are getting so blurred, and I get tired of hearing myself say it. I know y'all do, but I'm telling you folks, the responsibilities that a municipality have are somewhat likened to what the county does, but there is a definite divide there. And health, education, welfare, the courts, the jail, those are specific responsibilities of the county. We, on the other hand, are solid waste, police, fire, planning, zoning. And all of a sudden, you go back 20 years and look at what were the responsibilities that we undertook then versus what we're attempting to do now, and we're looking more and more like the county. And the endowment is not set up just for the county to dip in, and that's not, I don't think that's what they're doing. They're helping with their non-government agencies. We have non-government agencies that come to us, and grants are wonderful things, just like ARPA money. You live by it and you die by it, because at some point it goes away. I remember one time we had opportunity to add like 6 or 8 or 10 policemen with a grant that came from some up in Washington. And we put them on, and then when the grant ran out, what were we to do? We had to fund them. And I won't say that programs like this are the same way, but we have to also be very careful that we do provide the services that we are by law required to do, and not begin to take on other things. Those are county functions, and we should rely on them to fund them and operate them. And we need to take care of our citizens within our corporate boundaries like we are charged to do, and not get so involved with functions that aren't part of our core services. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ravenbart, you've often spoke over the years about how the relationship with the county and how the responsibility has often been unfair when it comes to the city of Wilmington in New Hanover County. So to hear some of what you said today, I mean, I've heard you say it before, and I understand, but we also understand that government has evolved from 20 years ago. So there are some things that we need to participate in that we haven't done before. There are some things that are going to come along that we haven't done before. And you're right, there is a charter, but you know, there's I'm not gonna say unfair. There's some discrepancy in how the city of Wilmington has been taken care of by New Hanover County. You may agree, you may not agree, but you know, we understand what's going on. And if you're right, you are right, we live in the county. But if the municipalities within New Hanover County were a basketball team, then the city of Wilmington would be Michael Jordan. And we want to be treated as if we're Michael Jordan.
Well, I think in some ways we agree on some things, but here's the bottom line. The citizens of Wilmington, North Carolina pay county taxes. We're paying for those services. We don't need to pay twice. Thank you.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. But also, as we talk about the pot of money, the endowment, you know, it's just not the same relationship. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We can work it out or discuss it as this thing's developed. But that's just how I feel.
Okay. Mr. Moten?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Moten?
Yes, sir. So,
I'm presiding now.
okay, great. So next item would be the Riverwalk Maintenance Program presented by Parks and Recreation Director Amy Beatty.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your time to overview Parks and Recreation's inspection and maintenance program of the Riverwalk. Of course, it is our #1 tourist attraction, and I think also a real connection point among our citizens and residents. In fiscal year 2019, with the adopted budget, Council allocated a maintenance fund directed solely towards the Riverwalk. It was the first time that we had had a distinctive maintenance fund for the Riverwalk. Some of the things that have been accomplished with that budget have been a replacement of the posts on the railing system. It was quite extensive. We participated in the budget for the revamp of the area around the visitor center, and most recently funded the design for the replacement of the electrical circuit system on the south end of the Riverwalk. And right now, we are in the process of replacing all of the decking on the Riverwalk. That contract has been underway for a few months. If you've been down by Elijah's or the Pilot House, you've seen that new decking. They have almost reached Orange Street Landing. They've moved up to the convention center to do a little bit of work there, and then they're going to take July and part of August off just due to the amount of traffic with the tourist season that the Riverwalk sees, and they'll resume later in August. With that program that was adopted in 2019, Parks and Recreation has devoted staff for an inspection program of the Riverwalk. We spend about 20 hours of staff time there weekly, and we are gathering data. We have just this year begun a monthly reporting of the work that's being done on the Riverwalk, and that will help us to understand if we have the right amount of staffing levels devoted to the Riverwalk. As Mr. Moten often comments, the Riverwalk is like our beach. It is our beachfront, and we need to be devoting sufficient resources to keep it looking good and safe, and continuing that top tourism attraction. With the data that we're collecting, we're trying to identify trends and to see if we are devoting the right amount of hours on our preventative maintenance program. And one important thing to note is we were 2 budget cycles ago able to, with a base budget shift, identify or add a budget and business analyst in the Parks and Recreation Department, Victoria, and she has been instrumental in developing this monthly reporting where all of the activities, all the tasks on the Riverwalk are input through our work order system. Every asset is identified, whether it be a bench, the boardwalk itself, flags, banners, et cetera, so that we know and can categorize the activities that we're working on there. And the reporting is evolving. I'm going to go over that in more detail in a slide in a minute. We know we can always make improvements with the reporting. So this slide right here, starting at the top right, electrical maintenance has comprised 6% of the work orders that have taken place this past fiscal year. What I'm showing you today is through March when we developed this presentation. We did not have the April and May data yet. So electrical maintenance is performed by our Public Works department. So when there is a light out, et cetera, that is the work that is happening there. Landscape maintenance is planned maintenance. Most of this takes place in the northern area of the Riverwalk where we do not have a bulkhead and we have a lot of maintenance right next to the Riverwalk, but this also includes our pocket parks along the Riverwalk. Parks complaints, that small green sliver that you see there, those work orders are generated directly from the public. We have signs along the Riverwalk that have WilmingtonRiverwalkNC.com where they can email a question or concern directly, and there's an identifier on those signs that lets us know the location of that complaint. We would like to and plan to in the future create more of those signs and move from the email word written out to a QR code to make it even more easier for the public to get those concerns to us. Parks trash removal, you see that's just 1% because that's not our regularly planned trash removal. Again, Public Works is a great collaborator with us in taking care of that, so this would be more of an unplanned or overflow task. Preventive maintenance, the purple that you see there, that is our planned maintenance. So we proactively enter work orders into our system every week, and we're going to go out and take care of whatever it is that we have assigned our staff to do that week. I'm going to skip over the reactionary inspections real quickly to go to the reactionary maintenance. So when I said that this report is evolving, my goal would be for a member of the public and council to independently read this report and intuitively know what it means. Right now, you can't do that. I have to be here explaining it, unfortunately, but that is the goal. So reactionary maintenance is actually a task that has been identified by our staff during their preventative maintenance. So if they were out and fixing some rails and they noticed that a dogway station was out of bags and they needed to fill the bags, then they would enter that work order categorized under reactionary maintenance. Again, we will try to improve these categories and make them more intuitive. And then lastly, the reactionary inspections are all other outside Parks and Recreation generated requests, whether it be from another department or MSD ambassadors, et cetera. But so all told, if you add together the landscape maintenance, preventive maintenance, and reactionary maintenance, that's 87%. So our staff is finding and fixing items before the public brings it to our attention 87% of the time. This is just another way of looking at the amount of work and amount of work orders that is taking place on the Riverwalk. And if you notice, there's a bit of an inverse relationship. If you go to that preventive maintenance and you see the total number of labor hours compared to the number of work orders, and then you look at the next line and see that same number of labor hours or staff hours compared to work orders. And that is, again, because the preventative maintenance is planned, whereas the reactionary maintenance is unplanned, and so typically that can take more hours. A recent example is at the Sawmill Apartments, their entrance connection into the Riverwalk. There was an issue where there was some settlement and sinking, creating a safety issue. And so we spent a lot of staff hours correcting that issue, and it wasn't something that was on our radar. Here again is some additional data. The staff demand hours from July to March is just over 1,000. And so I think that that reflects very accurately the 20 hours a week that we're spending on the inspection program. 526 work orders during that time. And then you see, again, the breakdown among the preventive maintenance, landscape maintenance, reactionary maintenance, and or then a catch-all category that didn't fit into any of the above. And this is a slide that just represents and again serves as a guide for us to plan in the future of the most common tasks that we identify when we're inspecting that need our attention. So first and foremost is the board replacement. So great news is that we already have a contract that is going to completely replace everything. There will always be spot replacement needs as we identify them. Then benches is second, then handrails, banner and flag maintenance, post maintenance, and then combination of everything that does not fit into those categories. This is a map that you have seen previously, and this is just to serve as a reminder that what I'm overviewing today is our everyday maintenance needs that Parks and Recreation is responsible for, but of course there are larger infrastructure projects that are always happening on the Riverwalk, and these are managed by our engineering department. So all told, there are 18 planned or projects underway by the engineering department, which are largely structural projects. And I believe all of these, with the exception of the Coast Guard's bulkhead, are funded.
They're not numbered based on like priority. They're just numbered where they're located.
No, they're numbered just, left to right.
Okay. Okay.
But we can update this map to you. We do have some recent data that updates the timeline for these, and so happy to email that out to council.
Okay. Yes, sir. Luke.
Can we go back one second? So you said all but the number 10 are funded? Is Water Street Park funded?
The current phase of Water Street Park, so right in front of the federal building, is funded.
Nice.
The last phase of Water Street Park, the Coast Guard property that the city acquired, that is a park project that has not been funded, so that's not reflected on this map.
What was our latest cost estimate for that unfunded portion? Do you know? Off the top of your head. We can get it later.
I think that Wim Combs, who works for Mr. Naklicki, is the project manager for Water Street, and I believe she is waiting on an updated timeline and cost estimate from our consultant. I want to say that's going to happen within the next couple of weeks, so
Great.
we'll be able to update you on that.
Okay, thank you.
And so importantly, although Parks and Recreation is the asset owner of the Riverwalk, it's truly a collaborative effort among city departments and some external partners. In addition to our 20-hour-a-week inspection program, we lead quarterly interdepartmental meetings, and that is with engineering, with public works, with our corporate affairs office, as well as our downtown coordinator, who's very instrumental in assisting us because of Chance's relationship with the MSD and those ambassadors. They're often our front line who sees things and lets us know that they need our attention. So that's been a really great collaborative effort. Again, we are the primary point of contact. The signs that are on the Riverwalk, if you email or call, that goes directly to our parks admin, and so we are the point of contact. We, a few years ago, did a sign inventory and cleanup along the Riverwalk. There were too many phone numbers and too many different names, and so now it is streamlined to one point of contact, and again, we hope to update that with QR codes. The engineering department is responsible, again, for structural maintenance and also our technical standards for future projects and renovation projects. Our Public Works Department is responsible for electrical and lighting maintenance, as well as the visitor center and the restrooms at the visitor center. Again, our downtown coordinator, as I said previously, is a great partner in this, corporate affairs, and then, as I said, WDI and the MSD ambassadors. I'll try and answer any questions that you still have.
Yeah, good presentation. Quick question, though. How many staff do we have, like, on this project? Is there a certain number?
So it's 20 hours a week, so we don't have a dedicated staff person. Our grounds technicians who take care of our parks, mowing, our landscaping beds, it's within that division. So we take basically half of a week of a full-time person that is spent on the Riverwalk.
Okay, good deal. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of council, that concludes staff presentations for this morning.
Okay, with that being said, meeting adjourned.